Hello everyone, welcome back. In this episode of Bitcoin Trade, I will be going over a chart analysis. So if you haven't already figured out, you probably already are figuring out right now that the price has broken down, and it could be a couple things. It could be a retracement, or it could be a continuation of a downtrend. Hard to tell, but if you're trading, if you have experience in trading, you'll know that it doesn't always reverse trend on the first try. It may test and retest resistance going up, and then pull back just to go back up again. When you get to a situation like this, where you're seeing a possible trend reversal or a continuation of a further downtrend, it's hard to tell. But here you go. This is Bitfin, and I always start with the Bitfin because it's, as far as I know, it's a leading U.S. dollar exchange. But I'll go through other charts, and you'll probably see some similarities. So I don't really go into too much. I do use the Bitfin chart because, again, they're the leading U.S. dollar exchange. I think after that it's Bitstamp and then BitC. If you want, I'll do some chart analysis on some Chinese exchange. I'll basically just do them right here because the reason why is I like to look at a snapshot of all the exchange prices at once. And this is Bitcoin Wisdom here, and they have Bitstamp, BitC, Bitfin, and then this I believe it's called Huobi or Hobu or whatever they want to call it, the Chinese exchange, and they translate that into US dollar, so I can understand it. If they just had this Chinese number, Chinese money, I wouldn't know the difference because I've never been to China. I never plan on going to China, and I never really buy. I buy, probably inadvertently, without me knowing, buy a lot of Chinese products, but I'm not going to be paying in Chinese dollars, so I wouldn't really know. But there it is in U.S. dollars. So I'll do a chart analysis on what's here because that's what's here. So you don't have to click on a different chart like an I think OKCoin or Bitcoin China or something like that. It's just right here, so it just shows up. So I can just look at it. So if I look at the price right now, at one point BitC was higher at one point, usually when it was going down, and then they all evened out in part. If you were awake or trading at that time, even this Chinese exchange was all parred with BitC, and they're all pretty much parred at 355, I think, or 354. And if you timed it right, you could have moved your coins around to the different exchange and perform quote unquote arbitrage. But I mentioned many times that's difficult. You have to time it, or you basically have to have Bitcoin and money both floating at all of these exchanges to do that instantaneously. By the time you send your Bitcoins out to the different places, it's too late. So very hard to perform arbitrage, in my opinion, through the exchanges, but it's possible. Anyways, looking at the price now, it's somewhat stabilized. It's not that much of a difference between BitC and then all the other ones here. Bitstamp's being highest, and so but they're pretty very close. There's not like $5 to $10 range in price. So everything's being, I guess, already been arbitraged in some ways. So anyways, let's go look at the chart here. I'm not drawing too much lines anymore because you all should be able to do that by now. If you haven't figured that out, you can just definitely go back to my previous episodes and watch those. So I don't draw lines here. I'm just looking at the average on a 12-hour. So this is a 12-hour, if you see here, 12-hour, and on a Bitfin. So that's the current price. Now, why do I go back 12 hours? Why don't I just do an hour and trade in and out like that? Well, um, I I do enough trades um, in real life to not really trade on the exchange per se. I do trade there, but I trade more on trends. So when you trade on trends, um, you have to pull back at a longer time frame, and you're just riding that trend. So that's what I'm doing. And if you're all wondering, what have I been doing? Well, I've either been shorting. Yes, I've been shorting. But the only reason why I would short is so I could buy more Bitcoins for the same amount of price. Uh, I guess for every $1 I buy Bitcoins, I'm buying more Bitcoins. So as the price goes down, I'm getting more Bitcoins, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to get more Bitcoins because um, I anticipate them going up in value. I do anticipate them getting harder and harder to get, and they have been harder and harder to get. Um, there's always difficulty rates going up, prices going down. Um, some of the miners may have left, have stopped mining. Um, so for me, you know, it's so much easier just to buy them at a lower price than to try to mine for them, uh, or even buy them at a higher price, if that makes sense. So, anyways, as you can see here on the 12-hour, it's turned over, it's turned back down. So um, it may go up and down, up and down. And that's the thing, when you see a trend, a long trend like this, and the trends tend to trend that way in general, going down. This is the first signal of a reversal in that trend, but doesn't mean it's just going to reverse all the time. Just because it breaks through doesn't mean it's going to continue on. There's going to be some up and down ranging here before it possibly can go up any further. And so that's one of the things that could be happening. Another thing is, I mentioned that this right here, about 350, would be another support area, and apparently right now it has stopped. It's slightly bounced back, but remember, you got to wait until this candlestick finishes, at least one or two candlesticks, before you start really getting into your positions. And so, if you think about 12 hours, and you have to wait one to, one's really not enough, but, at least 2 to 3 candlesticks. So that's about a day and a half, maybe 2 days, before you can get a better idea where this price action is going. So, trading on the trends requires you to have a lot more patience. So, having patience is kind of the key when you're trading on trends. So on a downtrend, I'm always trying to buy Bitcoins at a lower price, at the lowest price I can, that I possibly can. I wish I bought like a whole bunch at 275, but it's hard to predict. Okay, but I have been buying at lower prices, and so I'm getting a lot more Bitcoins. It's amazing the amount of Bitcoins I'm getting. Um, so that kind of feels weird to get so many Bitcoins after I've been buying them at a higher price. It almost seems like it's too many Bitcoins. I feel like I'm trading Litecoins at some point. I'm getting, uh, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let's just go to the Litecoin charts. Just offshoot a little, divert a little, but if you look at it, I mean, you're 100, 400, 500, 700 coins. You're trading like that. It kind of feels like it's getting there, but I know it's not. Um, but I'm just trying to make that point where Bitcoins have become cheaper than what they were, so you're getting a lot more for your money now. And then as you're trading them, or either in exchange or in real life, um, you're like going, wow, I can't believe you know, trading Bitcoins for, like, I'm trading 10 Bitcoins, which would have been, 1.5 Bitcoins or 3 Bitcoins earlier this year, right? So it's kind of weird, but it is what it is. Anyways, so let's take a look at what's going on. I mentioned 350 being a good support, and it looks like right now it may be supported here, and if it doesn't hold up here at 350, because the reason why I say 350 is because that's where this actually initially bounced off and pushed up. So if 350, and it never really stops at the low point again, and I wish it did. It'd be so much easier to trade, but it doesn't. It stopped a little bit high above 350. We'll see. I have to wait until this candlestick finishes, and maybe one or two more after that, to get a better idea. And then if I think it's going to be well supported, you may want to, couple things. You may want to buy at market price, or you may want to put your limits in the appropriate place where at least they'll hit, and you'll be able to actually buy Bitcoins. It kind of sucks to put limits in areas and they never hit, and you miss out. You like barely missed it. Excuse me. And so again, you can do a market order, or you can do a limit, but try to make your limits orders in a way that they'll actually, they'll hit, so you can actually get the Bitcoins. Taking a risk here is not too risky. So anywhere in this price level around here would be, in my opinion, a good risk to take. It is lower than what it was, so you're getting more Bitcoins for your money. That's one way to look at it. So you may see these cross up and down for a while. Excuse me. I've got a little frog in my throat here. So when you see that, that's an indication that there could be a possible trend reversal. So it'll do that. These two averages will cross each other many times, and until the more buyers than there are sellers. And so it could be a chance to take advantage of maybe some lower Bitcoin prices. The other scenario is if it breaks below the 350, look for more continuation going down. So in order to get a better idea, you have to pull back even further. So let's pull back. Alright, so I'm pulling back to 1 day, and you can see this very long trend downwards. You can see that, and you can see where it dropped off here. So it hit up here against this and then dropped off. Question is, now is it going to rebound from here and be able to break and push through? So that's the let me see here. So that's the other question that you have to look at. So you have to pull back a little bit further to get a better idea, but you're going to have to see if it's excuse me, you're gonna have to see if that's gonna go and work out for you. So that's kind of like the basic chart analysis. So it could continue down further, but it's hard to say. All I can say is, you know, for me, I've already have the amount of Bitcoins that I want to hold, and I mean hold, like not sell them at all. Again, I haven't seen these prices since last November. Well, literally last November, which is almost right around the corner. So we'll see what happens after that. But that's kind of what's going on. So you may see a lot of this range in price, all the way from these two prices, from whatever it is, from 400 to 350 to 300. So there may be $100 range going on, and I think it's just a sign of, or a movement in a couple factors. Mining's getting difficult, although I've heard that the difficulty has gotten easier, if that makes sense. So I'm assuming that's due to miners not mining anymore. And the miners that are, well, they're going to be reaping the benefits for sticking with it. But I also noticed one thing is, I've noticed from one particular miner, and they tend to send me Bitcoins late at night, which I think is an indication of where their mined Bitcoins are coming from. So I think they're coming from either excuse me, either China or somewhere in Asia, Australia, because they tend to send me late at night, and I'm in Houston, Texas, so that's Central Time. And right after they do that, I noticed that there's a heavy drop in the price recently. So I think when I'm getting those mined Bitcoins, a lot of people in that time frame, in that area, who are trading, actively trading, because all those is 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm not going to be really trading that much in the middle of the night, although I could, but I have other things to do during the day. So the heavy sell-off could be an indication of Bitcoins being mined, and then they're being put out into the exchanges, or eventually making out to the exchanges to be traded, because they're being mined. They're going out to either somebody, groups of people, investors, and then those investors are then trading them over on the exchange. Makes sense. Or they're being used, and merchant processing, all that, whatever the case. So new Bitcoins, I think, are coming out, and then they're being used immediately, either for investing or for use. So that's kind of one thing about this particular miner. Some of the other miners I've been working with, different scenario. I think their Bitcoins are coming from their Bitcoins are being mined in different part of the U.S. and so and that's when I particularly start trading, because I'm in the U.S. and so when I get those Bitcoins, they tend to react a little differently. So it's kind of like when you get them and you get an idea of where they're coming from, you, it kind of tells me a lot about um, those particular miners or whoever's you know I'm buying from, where those bitcoins could be coming from, you know, and the time they send them to me as well. So I get a lot of insight through that, just through the transactions I make, and I do. So um, I still think there's still a lot of miners out there, um, or it could be investors. I mean, it could be used, but I, I think it's time they're being mined and being created. Uh, they're definitely they're making their way out to the exchanges, and that's definitely affecting the prices, um, either through investors or through use, through merchant processing. So um, that's my take on that. So you're all probably wondering where is it going to go, or maybe you want to get some better idea of how to play this. So I mentioned you could just do a market order or put some limits at 350 or somewhere around 350. If it breaks down after that, this would be the next price range to um, position yourself around, right around here, around 390, 315, somewhere around here. Um, that might be another area, or even at 300. You can go back down to 300 and see if you can pick up some good deals there. So that's if it continues to break down below 350. If it bounces up from there, you might want to start looking at this high in particular of 415 or whatever it is, and then up to 450. So there's about $100 potential here in the short term. And if it does make it higher than this high and hits it up here, then that's really a good indication. You got your first indicator that this trend is starting to reverse, and then if it goes up here, that'll be a second indicator, and then one, two. I mean, that's two confirmations. That's probably really good signal that the trend is starting to reverse and it's starting to pick up again. So those are some of the options. Now, I can't predict what's going on. If I did, I wouldn't be telling you all this. But I am letting you know how some people might want it, how some people trade. I trade in that way. I use many different indicators. I don't use any oscillating indicators like you'll see here. I use lines. I look at the averages, and then I just try to look at the overall trend as well. And not only that, but I try to gather enough information from my sellers and my buyers, which could be, you know, miners, investors, users, for whatever reason. You know, if you're involved in this, in trading, you know, you have an edge up on your trades because you're the one involved in them. And between my buyers, my sellers, miners, investors, users, whoever they are, you don't really know for sure, but you can get an idea, like what's going on, and that can probably help you. I guess you can consider it inside trading, but you're not really inside trading. I mean, you're just trading, and based on the trades that you're doing with your buyers and sellers, you can get a good idea of the market pulse. If that makes sense. And so, you know, take that into consideration in your trades. Another thing that I'm starting to do is I'm starting to more and more go out into the physical world, and I'm starting to reach out and make contact with my buyers and sellers. So, and the purpose of that is to secure trading agreements, if that makes sense. So um, one of the things you have to do if you're getting into Bitcoin trading is, um, there's no, how can I say this? Um, it's no surprise that uh, banks don't want you to be in business as a Bitcoin investor. Now I'm an investor. I'm a user. I'm a miner. You could say I'm all of those things. Um, but I think the banks are still very resistant. So at some point they're gonna an attempt to end your relationship with them. They may not know yet that you do this or not. But so far, in my opinion, the banks have still not come around, most of them. And so, um, and the reason why you get a secure trading agreements is in the event that you're not able to have any banking relationship at all. So you gotta make sure that you can somehow still trade if you want this to continue. And so I'm going out there more and more and trying to secure trading agreements. And by doing that, I'm basically securing the flow of Bitcoin, securing the absolute free will and use of Bitcoin, so it can still continue to thrive. And I think it's scaring a lot of the financial institutions, especially the established financial institutions. And they're going to try to do whatever they can within their own power to, as far as I'm concerned, they're just slowing it down, or they're trying to slow it down as much as they can, because it's starting to really start to accelerate to a point that in a couple of years, I think you're going to see a drastic change in the way people view money, how they spend their money, how people are going to be transacting. Because in my opinion, Bitcoin greatly reduces fraud. Although there's a lot of people committing fraud with Bitcoin, if you can take the right precautions yourself, you can actually, reduce a lot of fraud. And that's one of the reasons why I personally like using Bitcoin, is because you're not subjected to all the fraudulent activity that I really feel the banks somehow perpetuate. And so so I think in a couple more years, I'm not talking about like 10 years or 20 years. I'm talking about like in a few years, like the rest of this year and next year, you're going to start seeing a lot of use going on, a lot of real world use, practical use of Bitcoin to reduce fraud, to commit transactions, and it's gonna just take off. Okay, that's just my opinion, but I'm starting to see a lot of it go on just by the fact that how resistant, how you could tell that something's really threatening by how much resistance it's how much of an opposition there is to it, that it's scaring a lot of established financial institutions, mainly because it empowers you and no longer makes you a subject of these financial institutions. And for the ones that understand that, and are willing to cooperate, they're going to benefit. The ones that don't, they're going to suffer. And it's not by my hands, it's by their own hands. They're just committing suicide. Which, in my opinion, some of them are already dead anyways. They're literally just zombies. There's no use for them other than just being there. So if they're gonna be there, I might as well just go ahead and use them. Have them, give them some kind of purpose. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, so that's my episode here. Just a quick recap. 350, as I mentioned in my previous episode, being a support because it's right around here. So as it goes up, it'll go down, and this could be the 1, and this could be the 2 wave, and then you could see a 3 wave, possibly. So just keep that in mind. The other scenario is that it bounces up here and then it just continues. If it breaks down below 350 with a really good solid line, look for 300 being the next buying opportunity. And so again, I think $300 is kind of really key, because at that point the miners just can't keep up. They're going to be dropping out, and that means there's going to be less and less bitcoins out there to be mined by the miners. And so it's probably going to get harder and harder to get bitcoins. But then again, it's always going to get harder and harder to get bitcoins. So anyways, I guess I can conclude this episode. Feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment or a video response. Until next time, stay tuned.